And a warm welcome from Findel International Airport in Luxembourg. We're in the Fenix A319. This is with the BFU, the Big Fenix Update. And this 319, as you no doubt notice, it's got sharklets. This is a French B livery I made a while back, and originally with CFM engine. This time we've got IAE engines. And IAE engines and sharklets is a very rare combination. I think Avianca was the only customer to actually buy that combination, but in the simulator you can do pretty much as you wish, which is what we've done. Anyway, we're going to be flying today to Figari, Sud Corse. That's in Corsica, the very bottom of Corsica, the southern end of Corsica, and it's a spectacular approach, very, very lovely into runway, oh my gosh, I think it's runway 23, I can't remember now. Yeah, it should be a very pleasant flight. I've done the flight planning routine already, and I've uploaded the video for that, which hopefully is of some use to you. Today we're going to do the actual flight, and let's take a look at this in brief and navgraph information and charts first of all. So let's bring SimBrief up. So we're still on the same runways as yesterday, and they are it's 24 at Luxembourg and 23 in Figari, and SimBrief is having 6,745 kilos of fuel, 137 passengers, and flight level 37. We're going to be accompanied by Beyond ATC. That should be good, and we'll check out all the charts and graphs as we progress with the setting up of the aircraft. So anyway, the flight is loaded in SimBrief and navgraph charts. Here we go. So it's about 500 or so miles. Let's just check options. 511 miles is what navgraph charts is reporting, and SimBrief is reporting. It does tell you somewhere, or is it on the other page? I don't know. Let's not worry about it. Got a cost index of 5 because I don't use that in Italian, and I like to put my foot down a little bit with firewall with throttles. So anyway, let's get underway. Let's get inside the aircraft. So we are in the turnaround state, which is how a crew who is coming to the end of their shift, just landed the aircraft, they've parked at the gate, and they're just vacating the aircraft. They leave it running for the next crew who's just about to come on their duty roster, and this is how they would find the aircraft. So it's ready to go, pretty much. APU running, IRSs are all aligned, fuel pumps are off, seatbelt signs are off because we haven't fueled yet. So this is a turnaround state. That's how I like to see the aircraft. So let's start with the Fenix tablet. We'll go to the Fenix menu. And the first screen here is the flight. And this gives you the flight details. There are 3 tabs on this particular screen. The next one is the route. The next one is the weather. And you've got 3 tabs: departure, arrival, and alternate, and a refresh click spot here, just to get updated weather. So that we bring the route in, which we've done. Then we go to mass and balance, and then we load the aircraft. Now, the new Fenix is completely integrated with GSX, fully automatic. So when you press load aircraft, if you've got GSX, you'll get the GSX options, and you've previously indicated that you want to use GSX integration, and I will click on boarding and refueling. Okay, if you don't have GSX, then you'll have these options: real time, fast time, instant, or cancel. Okay, and obviously you can then select whichever one of these you want. I'm going to go for GSX boarding and refueling, and before I do that though, let's just go to settings. This is where you would put in your SimBrief user ID here in settings, and once you've done that, you can then bring the route in as I indicated on this screen. And once you've done that, you can then go to mass and balance and then load aircraft. So GSX boarding and refueling, and that's now
Fueling truck is on its way.
that's now in action. You might have heard GSX saying that the refueling truck is on its way.
Aircraft until the fuel truck arrives
and then it says don't touch anything, don't refuel, don't do anything more until the fuel truck is there. Okay, so let's get to the MACD, because now we brought the route into the EFB, we can do the same on the MACD, the MCDU. We go to ATSU, then we go to AOC, and then flight init, and then request init data request. And this takes a second or two to bring in. And once it's in, there it is, you can then click straight onto the init page. And when you're on the init page, you then can input the data. It will transfer the data and the flight plan straight into the aircraft. So we click right to init request, and a second or two later it will have injected the route. There we go. So the route is in. Now we can just complete the rest of the setup on the init page. We can get rid of the messages at the bottom of the scratch pad. So flight number, we are French B, so that is FBU, Fox Bravo Uniform, and of course we're 995. Then we do cost index, and it said 5. We could put 5, but no, because I'm in a hurry, we're going to do 35. Flight 370 is what I flight level 370 is what I asked for, so that can go into the cruise level. Right, so the init page, there is a second page to it. You can see that because there's a double-headed arrow here, and to get to that you use the left and the right arrows here. It's simple. So we'll go to the right, and you'll see that there are some data fields here that still need to be completed. We can't do those until the aircraft is loaded. So we will come back to this. Let's have a quick look outside just to see the got catering services. We've got the fueler. We've got his hose to the ground supply. There is the fuel truck there. If we zoom into it, you'll see that actually you'll see the amount of fuel he's uplifting increase. There he goes. He's going to connect the hose now to the underwing fuel nozzle, and you'll see the fuel uplift indicated here. There he goes. 20 kilos, 30 kilos. It's quite fun, isn't it? Okay, let's go back inside. The flight plan. And we need to put in our departure and arrival details. So let's just bring that up on the screen. So here's SimBrief. If you want to go to Navgraph Charts, go back to the General tab, and we can see we're on runway 24 on the Golf Tango Quebec to Quebec departure. So 24 Golf Tango Quebec to Quebec. So we do left one again for departure, then we do runway 24, and then we scroll down this list by hitting the up button. Think of it as like this. So you hit the up button so that these lines move up, and you see the lines further down. So we want the GTQ2Q. There we go. That's in, and then we just do insert. And now we scroll down the list to make sure there's no discontinuities, and there aren't any. Now we want the arrival, so we click on left 6 for Lima Fox Kilo Fox, which is Figari. Then we want to go to arrival, which is right 1, and we're just going to remind ourselves it is the TORTU Victor and the RNAV Zulu with the Mazal transition. So TORTU Victor and the RNAV Zulu. So there's the RNAV Zulu, and we want the TORTU Victor. We just scroll down the list. TORTU Victor, and there's something missing via, which is the transition, so we need to click on the approach vias, left 2. Once we've done that, we'll see Mazal and the other one, which is Pinal, which we don't want. So Mazal we click on, Mazal appears up here, So that's now complete. We can hit return, and then we can hit insert. And we'll just again scroll down the flight plan, looking for discontinuities, and there are none, so it's all good. But what we will do though is, if you look at Mazal, it's got here flight level, 5,000 feet, and there's a plus sign next to it, and that means 5,000 feet or above. But actually I want to get to Mazal at 5,000. I like to be in control and make sure that we aren't having to descend too quickly. So 5,000 feet, put that into right 3, and that's telling the aircraft, once we've inserted that change, then in fact we want to be at Mazal at 5,000. So let's have a look. Where is it? Mazal at 5,000. There we go. So we've had a bit of squawking from GSX. Let's just see what they're doing. So boarding is requested. So presumably we're fueled and all the bags are on board. And if not, that probably would be what they'll do next. Is the jetway attached? So jetway is attached. So we're all good. Let's open the door, because at some point the crew will board and we will see cabin crew, and then the passengers will start to file in. So we'll just leave the door open for a moment. Okay, so there's not much we can do now apart from a bit of administrative tertiary actions. Company message is shown here. That means that the company sent us 1 or 2 messages, and we can go and look at those. I'll do it on this MCDU. No to attach the tug. Okay. Go to the MCDU menu. Go to ATSU. Go to AOC. And then we go to received messages. And there's the message that this ECAS is showing us. We click on it and it's a load sheet sent by the company, which we would normally accept. And I don't think anything happens if you don't do this, but there will be another load sheet, the final load sheet that they will send, and again you can accept it or not. Once we've done that, we can go back to the flight plan or init, which is still needing that data, and the performance page, which is still needing the V speeds, the flaps and the temperature. So we are all good so far. Let's bring in Navgraph charts and let's have a quick look at the departure. So we're on the GTQ2Q, and that's from runway 24. So it's a runway heading to 892, then it's a left turn to altitude 4,700 or above. See the blue line? It's below the numbers. That means it's at or above that altitude. That's feet there, 4,700 feet. Then it's a turn onto 153 to Lima X-ray 896, and here we've got a flight level. Flight level 120, and again there's a blue line below it, which is at or above flight level 120. If the blue line was on top, then it would be at or below. And if there is a blue line below and above it, then that means at that altitude. It means at that altitude, not above it and not below it, at that altitude. Okay, so we've then got flight level 120 at or above, and flight level 150 at or above. I'm going to put this one in here, although ATC might give me a different altitude. At least that's one of the constraints on this departure. So 150 is what I'm going to dial in into my MCP here. So I'm going to dial in 150, and once you do something here on the MCP, you set and you check. So set and checked. I'm now going to put the PA system on, and then we'll hear the cabin crew welcoming on board our passengers. Okay, and it doesn't look like they're taking their seats, but that they will be seated once they're all aboard. You used to see them walk down the aisle. I'm not quite sure what's changed but you don't see them walk down the aisle because the big Fenix updates only just happened. Right, so we've got 150 dialed in, and we're fueled. So what we can do now is to put the seatbelt signs on, and because we're fueled, we can put the fuel pumps on. All 6 of them.
Boarding pass, please.
There we go. All done.
Hello.
Right then, so I'm going to put a bit of floodlighting on there, and I'm going to retract my armrest. Okay, so I'm just going to get ATIS from Beyond ATC. Let's have a listen to what the ATIS is telling us, because we need to put our QNH in.
Few clouds at 3,100. Temperature 21.
Welcome on board.
Dew point 13. Cool in 1018. Wind to 55 at 15. Gusts to 5. Scattered at 3,000. Foul FM conditions.
So it's 1018. So
Landing
if I
and
just press
departing
B,
runway 24.
that's what should appear. There we go.
Transition level 050. Temporary flight restrictions are in effect for Luxembourg. Advice on initial contact, you have information kilo.
Right, so let's get our clearance. Just going to turn the PA down a bit, because otherwise it's going to detract from what we're trying to do. So request IFR clearance.
French B995, looking to pick up our clearance to Figari to course.
French B995, Luxembourg delivery. Expect runway 24, Austin Clean 2 Quebec departure. Squawk 1000.
Gross Tenquin 2 Quebec departure. Squawk 1000. French B995.
So we've got 102, 103 passengers boarded, planned 137, so we've got another 30 or so passengers. And we've got a squawk of 1,000, so we go to the transponder, we click clear twice to clear the display, and then we can punch in 1,000, which is the squawk that we've been assigned, 1,000, and then we go from standby to auto, or on, but auto is fine, and then we can switch the transponder mode to TA, so it's only traffic advisories, because we don't need any resolution conflict, remember, on the ground or at the gate. So I'll just leave it on TA, and then when we start to taxi we can move that to Tara. Right then, so the first officer's MCDU, I usually put that onto the progress page. So there we got the progress page. And what else do we need? We're just still waiting for the init data, and there's a very quick way to do this. I will show you that, but we can't do it until the aircraft is loaded. In fact, we are just 5 passengers to go. We'll just watch this. So 36 and 37 coming up. 37, and now we'll get a message saying aircraft loaded. Aircraft loaded. I can just dismiss that. Okay, and then the doors will be closed by GSX, and as you can see, that's happening now. Well, they will be closed in a moment. Okay, so we don't need to take care of that. They're doing that. What we will do though is look back and have a look at our seated passengers. There they are. Hello everybody. So we can close that door, and not only do you close that door, you lock that door as well. So we just go to the lock control, and we just click it downwards to lock.
Runway 24, cleared for takeoff, Lux Air 599.
Right then, so we need to fill out the rest of the MCDU or the MACDU. So back to the FB. Once you get the aircraft loaded, it means that all the weights that we've brought in from SimBrief are in the aircraft, and what we do is we just hit this button here, send to MACDU. Success. And then we look down here, and you'll see that those data fields are complete. Now you can put them in manually, no problem at all, but you can just do it with one click. That's really easy. Next thing is the performance, and now we've got the aircraft loaded, we've got all the weights in, we can go to the performance page and we can enter all the data here. And once again, Fenix has done us a real service by allowing the onboard takeoff performance calculator just to send the data directly to your Pt.2. So sync the load sheet. Okay, we'll just click on sync the live weather just in case it's changed, and then we'll hit calculate, and then all the data fields here are complete. 149, 149, 153 for V1, V rotate and V2, flap 1 and a flex of 77. Okay, and we can put that data in manually, or we can just use the send to MCDU feature, and that's what we're doing. Sent. That's done two things. It's put the speeds into the PFD, and it's put the speeds, flaps, trim and flex into the performance page of the Pt.2. So actually we're now ready to push back. Okay, so that all went really well. You can see Fenix has spent a long time in getting this really. It's a fabulous airplane. It's just convenient and user friendly, and yeah, brilliant. So let's get an ATC request push and start.
French B995, gate Alpha 6, request pushback.
French B995, Luxembourg Tower, pushback and engine startup await. Face northeast.
Pushback approved. Face northeast. French B995.
So we're going to use GSX to push back. So because we're going to be starting the engines, we're going to put the beacon on. That tells everybody that the aircraft is going to be doing stuff. And we go to the GSX menu, and we'll get pushback and departure. Okay, so departure clearance requested. So you'll now see them start to activate all the. They get the jetways going. Then we got the ground handler.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
So she's got the pins in her hand, and those, the tug will connect. She'll put the pins in. That will disconnect our ground steering. Okay, and that allows them to have control of the left and right, the turning, so they can push us back onto the appropriate taxiway. And after we've done the push and start, she'll take the pin, when the tug is disconnected, she'll take the pins out and then again wave them at us, saying that, you know, I've got the pins, your steering is connected. So here comes the tug. Let's have a quick look. You can see our beacon on. Go inside. Oops. Oh, stop it. I don't know, my buttons on my yoke are just, you click it once and things happen twice, I don't know. Right then, so we've got something to do first, because the Fenix, if you go to ground services, you'll see that the chocks and cones are out. So I need to check that my parking brake is on, and it is. So I can now disconnect the chocks and the cones. Okay. Now they're saying, where do you want to go? We want to go nose to the right. Okay. And I'll show you in a sec. So let's do nose to the right.
Release parking brake.
She says release parking brake, so we can release the parking brake.
Starting push. All engines clear. Start at wheel.
So all engines clear, start at wheel. So we put the start selector on to start. Okay, you'll see that the engine instruments appear on the upper and lower ECAS displays, and we start number 2 first. We'll put our clock on, because all this has got to happen within, I think, 50 seconds, I think it is. And I could show you about the pushback direction, but actually we'll leave that, because yeah, you just look at the ground chart, see which way you're facing, and then you'll know which way to push. So you want to push in the opposite, generally the opposite direction to the takeoff direction. It depends where you're parked, of course. So we've got N2, we've got ignition system B, the fuel valve is on, we've got fuel flow, and now we've got light up. Okay, this is an IE engine, so you don't have N1, you've got EPR engine pressure ratio.
Safety card found in your seat pocket contains important information about exit routes, oxygen mask,
Set parking brake.
Set parking brake.
position, which you must adopt.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Rod 8
We should have available shown on the engine. There it is, available. That means we can start number 1.
be aware that your nearest
Reset my clock.
may be behind you.
So you can see N2
Guide you to an exit
spooling up.
in an emergency.
You can see the valve
All baggage on board.
is open. Sorry, the high pressure valve is open and there's pressure there from the APU.
We recommend
Then you get the ignition system and then you'll get fuel flow. So we're looking for ignition. It'll probably be A. Oh no, B. There we go, B. And fuel flow. And now we've got light up. So you'll see the EGT, exhaust gas temperature, rising, shows that the engine has lit up. I should say caught fire, but probably not the thing to say. Okay, so just wait till that gets to stable and then we'll get a veil here.
pass the tapes around your waist.
In the meantime, I'm not going to delay GSX anymore, but I will tell them that we've got good
Cockpit to ground.
engine
We have a good engine
starts.
start. You can disconnect.
So we should get available, there we go, available there. So now we can finish off this routine. We switch the starter back to normal. Very important. We put one stage of flap out.
The cabin crew
Flaps 1.
life jackets
We
for children.
arm the speed brake.
Must now be stowed.
We put our transponder from T8 to T8RA, resolution advisory.
Further information regarding
And then we do
safety on board
our
can be found
predictive wind shear and weather radar.
Hope you have a
Because that's one of the things they implemented in the big Fenix update, which I'm very, very grateful for. Then we do auto brake to max. We can switch the timer off. I'm going to stop it and then reset it.
Left is clear. Right is
And now we've got, if I go to, let's go to external view, there we go. See her, she's pulled the pins out, so she's got the flags in her hand, and we'll see her from our window. There we go. She's going to show me the pins. I know I've got my steering back. Okay, and then she's going to just wave goodbye. Bye bye. Thank you. Right, so now we can call for taxi clearance because we have
French
set everything else up.
B995. Request taxi.
French B995, runway 2 for taxi via Lima, Bravo 1, Alpha 1.
Runway 2 for taxi via
There's a company
Lima.
message.
Bravo 1
We
Alpha.
should look at
Alpha
that.
1
Let's
French
do that quickly.
B995.
The MCDU menu, ATSU, AOC, messages, load sheet, accept. And then I'm going to go straight back to flight plan. Let's got rid of that message on there. Okay, so ground spoilers armed, seat belts, flaps we've got, auto brake we've got. So we can put our, oh yeah, one more. So APU bleed off, window heat and probes on, APU master off. The APU will still be available until it sort of starts to run down, and we can put our taxi light on and our turn off lights. Okay, just to increase our visibility. And once I disconnect the parking brake with the IAE engines, they tend to roll forward even at idle thrust, which is quite handy to know, because if you ever at idle thrust you just let go of your brakes, you will roll forward. Oh, somebody's landing there. And it will get quicker and quicker and quicker. Okay, so we will just add to that little bit of throttle, and we'll follow the yellow bit road to the holding point from runway 24.
Qatari 8133 heavy, exit next available taxiway.
Okay, so we just follow the yellow brick road here.
Luxembourg 5 for November, Data Alpha 8, request pushback and engine start.
Luxembourg 5 for November.
I think they've really improved the ground handling with this Fenix update. I found it very hard to control previously, but I think it's better now. Let's just follow this round to the left. Okay. And then we'll just talk about what happens next. So we've got there was 2 messages here on the ECAS. One was cabin ready, check. Now the cabin, they're autonomous there, they will tell me when they're ready, but if they weren't, I could always just beat them on the overhead call buttons to remind them that we're going to be taking off very soon. Okay, so anyway, you can't take off until the cabin is ready. You need to know that your crew are seated and belted. Next thing is you've got takeoff config check, which is test, and below the lower ECAS display there are a series of buttons, one of which is the takeoff config, and we will just click on that, and that just checks the configuration that the EFB gave us for takeoff, that we then squirted into the MCDU is correct. That's flaps 1, that the auto brake is selected, that the spoilers are set to auto. So it's a takeoff configuration check, and once you press takeoff config check, then it comes back normal, then you're ready to take off. So I was trying to talk in taxi and it didn't work very well, and so we came to a bit of an abrupt halt, but we're at the hold. Okay, so I'm going to request departure. They're quite busy, so you've got to get your calls in with Beyond ATC.
French B995, Luxembourg Tower, wind 245 at 14, runway 24, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 24 cleared for takeoff, French B995.
Okay, so takeoff, I've put my nose light to take off. I'll put my landing lights 2 clicks, extended, and now on. Strobe is on automatic, so that will come on. And now we can just taxi forward. Of course it will move on its own with residual thrust, but we'll just add a little bit, otherwise it will take all day to get to lined up. So the routine to take off with the Airbus is you do a bit of forward pressure on the stick. You'll see that forward pressure here, the crosshairs, and a little bit of forward pressure. You hold it there till 100 knots, then you release gently, you release the back pressure, the forward pressure, okay? And then when you get to V1, I've got a little add-on that calls V1. And once I've called V1 and then rotate, I can pull back gently on the stick and rotate the aircraft off the ground. So we're just going to come to a stop.
On runway 24.
Okay, so we've got the runway ahead of us. Just going to zoom out just a tiny bit. Okay, and the reason I've done that is so we can see the auto throttle here. So I'm just going to bring the auto throttle, the bit of forward pressure on the stick, and I'm going to bring my throttles up to about 50%. I'll hit engine stable. Okay, and now I'm going to bring them forward to the flex. So we flex set. So you can see flex is set here. I brought them up to the flex detent. Airspeed is alive, so we're now rolling down the runway. And at V1 I will take my hands symbolically off the throttle, because at that point we're going to take off even if we have a
100
problem.
knots.
100 knots. Back pressure is off. Sorry, forward pressure is off.
Ready for departure, runway 24.
Coming up to V1 rotate.
V1 will rotate.
Rotate. There we go. So just gentle back pressure. Rotate gently off the runway.
Positive climb.
Positive climb. Gear can come up.
Gear up.
Okay, gear up. We just check that nav comes on, and it has. Get this little green box on nav, so that means nav is engaged. And now we can put the... I'm going to put the autopilot on because I want to be showing you stuff now. I want to fly and talk at the same time. It's difficult enough taxiing. So autopilot can come on. So we,
5 for November, Luxembourg Tower, wind 245 at 14, runway 24, cleared for takeoff.
okay, so now the aircraft is telling me to put the throttle levers into climb mode. We're in flex at the moment, and I'm going to bring them down to climb mode. There we go, climb mode.
Climb set.
Climb power is set, throttles to climb.
French B995, contact Luxembourg radar 120
With flap retraction speed, there you go. So we can bring the flaps up now.
Contact Luxembourg radar.
Flaps coming up.
Flaps up. 885, French B995.
I didn't put my flight timer on, I'm going to do that now. There we go, flight timer.
Luxembourg radar, French B995.
We're also going to
3,600
disarm
feet.
the spoilers. So we're just going to push this in.
French B995, Luxembourg radar. Good day, identified. Climb to flight level 180.
180. So we set
Climb to flight level 180.
and we check.
French B995.
180, 180. We push the knob here. Whoops, sorry, let me do that again. I've accidentally moved it. We push the knob. That gives the aircraft, it's symbolic. You push the knob to the aircraft, that gives the aircraft control. Okay, now we've got the Q and H here, flashing. That means we want to go to standard pressure because we're above 5,000. We pull the knob. And that goes to standard pressure. So we're now operating on a flight level.
Flight level 170.
Okay. I have to say this is a fabulous update. A little bit more tidying up to be done. So we need to go up here. We can switch the turn-off lights off because they're on the nose gear and the nose gears are retracted. And we can switch the nose gear lights from takeoff back to taxi, back to off. The nose gear is retracted. We don't want any halogen lights in there, cause a fire. But there'll be a cutout anyway. Once they retract, they'll switch off. So, okay, we're all good. We're just going through a little bit of cloud. I could put the we're just breaking through it actually. If you just look, there we go. So a little bit later, should have put the anti-icing on, but never mind. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in on the map a little bit. And the map really should be at a zoom level that has something useful to you, because often you'll have just a green line and that's the route on the FMC, but it doesn't really tell you very much else that is useful. So zoom out until you've got at least one or maybe two other waypoints. Okay, and what's also useful is to put constraints on up here, and that will show you if there are any altitude or speed constraints at various waypoints, and indeed there are. So I should have put that on before we took off. So the next waypoint is 896 and it's got an altitude constraint at or above, it's got a plus sign, flight level 120, and we are just coming up to 120 now.
Luxembourg radar, Alpine E7 Papa Hotel, good day.
We just made it now. There we go, 120. And that's because the aircraft is accelerating because we're above 10,000. And because we're above 10,000, what we can do, we can switch off our landing lights because they extend. Let me just show you. They extend underneath the wing. See if we see it from the back. There you go. Okay, so they add just a tiny bit of resistance, I guess, not much, but a little bit, so we can retract them, switch them off, and then retract them. And because we're above 10,000 feet and there's no cloud or turbulence, just release the passengers out of there. Take the seatbelt signs off. Okay. So that's all good. Mostly, one or two errors my part, but heavens, I think we're all good. And what we can do, well, we're shortly going to get to flight level 180, so they're going to tell us, in fact here they are, telling us to change centering into RAM control.
Contact Reams Control
Reams,
128.3 French B995. Have a good day.
And they'll give us a further clearance, probably up to our cruise 370.
Reams Control French B995 through flight level 156 for flight level 180 direct ELLX A319.
French B995, range control, identifié, climb to flight level 370.
So 370. Remember, you
Flight
set
to flight
and
level
you check.
370 French B995.
Okay, set and checked. And remember, when you push, you're symbolically giving the aircraft control. When you pull, you're symbolically taking it away from the aircraft towards you. So at the moment, our speed is managed by the MACD, by the speeds in here, which are all preset, predetermined by the computers on board. Heading is, again, these little dots mean that it's on managed mode. We've pushed the button. And heading is on managed mode, which means it's following the FMC navigation, or MACD. And altitude, again, it's climbing as per its computer-derived schedule. So all three have got dots on them. So, not much to do now. We can look out the window and chat. And what I'll do is I'll put it onto speed mode. I'll increase the sim rate. The FMC here, if you go to the MACD menu, the MCDU menu, then go to maintenance, you've got sim rate. So even if you use the default key binding for sim rate, or you use the sim rate selector, these don't work. The only thing that works with the Fenix is the onboard MACD sim rate selector, 2 times or 4 times. Okay, and that's because once the aircraft is a normal installation, you've got, you know, objects, which is the aircraft fuselage, engines, textures, all that sort of thing. The most of the internals are external to Flight Simulator, an external program. So all the, you know, the clever electronics are external to the flight sim. That's why this doesn't work. It's all managed by a separate program. So I'm going to click on it once. That will go to 2 times rate, and that means that we're now flying twice as fast. And again, looking at the nav display, it's going to zoom out, so we've got something a little bit more useful, 1 or maybe 2 waypoints. Okay, so let's have a quick look outside. I do like the look of IAE engines, and I think this is a super livery, and I think with the shark clips, especially the 319, just looks absolutely top. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And if you're shopping for an Airbus for MSFS 2020 or 2024, honestly, do not look any further than the Fenix. It is the de facto standard, I think, for Airbuses. It is perfection. Not just the cockpit, the modelling, the texturing, but the system's depth is insane. Okay, so I think it is, without any doubt, the Airbus to buy. £50 gets you the A320, Another £30, I believe, gets you the A319 and A321. And yeah, just don't hesitate. If you're going to buy an Airbus, this is the one to get. It's just superb. There is, of course, the Latin VFR, but they're very poor technically, and systems depth, they're just really not very good at all. You could get the Latin VFR 319 321 Neo with the Horizon mod. That makes it better. The Horizon mod basically gives it the fly-by-wire functionality. So once you get the aircraft model, the 319, 321, and even the 320 CEO variants, the Horizon mod sort of adds the fly-by-wire package to the aircraft, and yeah, that's good. But this is much better. There is, for default aircraft, the A320 Neo in the sim is not good, but the Inibil's A320 Neo version 2 is acceptable. But it has a problem. It has a problem because the floodlighting, these little triangles here, are lights, and whilst at night they actually illuminate, they shed no light. Very odd. You don't get any down lighting on your panel. You get the other lighting, you get backlighting, but you don't get the flood lighting. It looks wrong, and it is wrong. Inibil say they've issued a fix to Microsoft, but Microsoft are just dragging their heels about implementing it. Yeah, so anyway, it's a shame because that was a decent Airbus. So for free, go for the fly-by-wire A32NX. That is really unbeatable. It's excellent in every way, and it, you know, there is no cost to it. Although donations are always welcome because they've done so much for the community. Okay, so we're just coming up 330 for 370, and we can have another look around the external aircraft, and then what I'll do, I'll cut the video and we'll resume as we get closer to our top of descent. It's lovely, look at that. I think the Airbuses are better looking aircraft. I mean, it's obviously personal choice. I just think it's a very good looking aircraft. Really very good. If you're looking for an Airbus, get the Fenix. If you're looking for a free Airbus, get the fly-by-wire. Cannot go wrong. Right, so we're just going to level off, and then I will fast forward to the top of descent, and we'll pick up from there. Okay, so see you all in a bit. Well, welcome back. We've just coasted out over the Mediterranean. We've got Geneva behind us, and we're at flight level 370, and we should have Corsica on the nose. There it is, in fact, just there. You see it in the distance. So we are about 80 miles or so from our top of descent. Let's get inside and have a quick look. So yeah, about 60 or 70 miles to go. So let's have a quick look at the arrival routine. So there we go, we can see us just coasting out. So we are on the TORTU Victor. So there's TORTU. So descent down to Libelo at 10,700 feet, except this should be a flight level, so that should be flight level 107, a bit of an odd number really. and then here this should be flight level 086, flight level 065, flight level 061, Nassau 5,000 feet. I know that, that these should be flight levels, that should be feet, because the transition level is, transition altitude is 5,000 feet. Okay, so with respect to these, they should be flight levels. Okay, so we've got some constraints essentially. Very high mountains, that's nearly 9,000 feet. That's why obviously this is taller than that. So we've told the aircraft that we want to be at Nassau at 5,000 feet. Nassau is where the RNAV picks up, so let's look at the RNAV. So the RNAV begins at Nassau, so it'll be going just to the north and east of the airport, to Nassau at 5,000. Then it's a left turn 031, still at 5,000. Then it's a left turn onto 315, descending 3,500, max speed 180. Then it's a left turn onto the final approach track 225, again at 3,500, and we keep 3,500 until 23 Zulu here. That's our final approach fix, and then it's a 3.5 degree descent to the runway. Now there is an ILS to this airport which follows much this route. However, the nav data is wrong. It's sort of,
Expect TORTU Victor, runway 23.
sorry, I've got to acknowledge that. Let me just do that. Acknowledge. Okay.
Expect TORTU Victor, runway
The whole
French B995.
procedure is just offset to the south, so you end up aiming at on the final approach fix, but just to the south of the airport. So you just got to weeble your way around. Not difficult, but for that reason we're just doing the RNAV. Okay, so let's have a look. We've told that the TORTU Victor is our arrival, and we've got a company message. Let's have a quick look at that quickly, and so we'll do ATSU AOC messages, and we'll just read. Okay, fine, not worry about that. Okay, so let's go back to the flight plan, and it's saying enter destination data. And what this is, we need to go to the performance page, then the next phase, which is descent, and then the next phase, which is approach. And it wants some information, some weather information. So we'll go to the Fenix menu, and we'll go to the weather page. So remember there's 3 tabs. Next one is route, next one is weather. We can go the other way if you want. There we go. And we want the arrival weather. We'll just refresh. And he wants the QNH 1016. It wants the temperature 29. Let's start with those. 1016. Temperature is 29. Then it wants the wind, and it's 250 at 13. So we do 250 at
Center on 12.725, French B995. Have a good day.
And now it wants the barrow, and that's the minimums. Now on our nav approach is a non-precision approach.
French B995,
Okay, ILS is precision, this is non-precision. I don't really understand about all the categories. I do have an IFR restricted rating for GA airplanes in the UK. So I'm just going to run with this one here, 1370. I'm going to dial that in. I'm sure other people will be much more savvy than me, they can explain it all. But I'm going to do 1370. That goes into barrow here. That will be our minimum, okay? But it's CAV OK. If you saw the weather here, it says CAV OK. That means ceiling and visibility are okay. There's nothing below 5,000 feet, and the visibility is greater than 10 miles. So we're happy with that. So our top of descent is now about 30 miles. We're going to zoom in on the display. There we go. So you can see 40 mile range ring, 20 mile range ring, pretty much 30 miles, okay? And I'm sure that they will tell us what altitude we need to come down to. If they don't, the restrictions for this approach, if you remember, are, because there's a blue line beneath the the numbering, it means at or above. If the blue line was above it, it would be at or below, and if there are two blue lines, one above, one below, then it's at. So the blue lines are below, that means they're all at or aboves. Okay, and I know that these are all flight levels, and I know that Massal is the one where the RNAV commences. So if they don't tell us, I will dial 5,000 in. So
French B995, Tortu Victor, runway 23. Report ready for descent.
Report ready for descent, so we'll just tell them that we will.
Tortu 2 Victor.
But they won't wait those 20 miles, they'll just give us a descent clearance. But that means descending manually, and I want to descend on the glide that the aircraft has worked out. So we're only 20 miles to run, so not very far. Okay, this is not an ILS, we don't need the landing system button. Okay, that just gives you the course deviation dots, the vertical and lateral. So we don't need that, but we will come in on approach, because the RNAV will have the vertical and lateral deviation indexes on the PFD, which is our attitude indicator, the AI. Right, so we are now
French B995, descend to flight level 250.
you see they're hurrying us up. We're now 15 miles to run. So 250 is my next altitude, that's what we're cleared to. I can dial that in. I can dial it in slowly. There we go. 250 is set. And it's not at the top, it's the bottom, because it's now a descent. So 250 is set and checked. And we want the aeroplane to manage that. Okay, we want the aeroplane to manage the descent process. So we're going to push the button, and that will give us a little dot here, which means that it's in managed mode. The aeroplane is managing the descent profile for us, and if there are any altitude restrictions in our flight plan, and there are, because we've looked at the chart, it will manage those. We could come down manually and pull the knob, in which case the aircraft will then come down at our present I think it's present speed, I'm not really sure. I'm not going to yeah, you can pull it and it will come into what's called open descent. Okay, and I think the speed is still managed, but your descent constraints are not. I'm not sure actually. So we are now just a few miles from our top of descent, so we can push the button. We've got our dent there. We're in managed mode. The airplane is managing the descent, and you'll see that we've started our descent. Okay, and there's a little green dot here, and that is what the aircraft is aiming to keep in the middle here. So if that dot is above, you're below the glide, and if that dot is below, then you're above the glide. Okay, the airplane will now do all it can to make sure that that dot stays in the middle at this speed. See that magenta triangle? That's the ideal speed, but the maximum and the minimum speed ranges are here. So it will try and juggle that and this to keep the right profile. And the reason it does that is so it comes down on idle power, save fuel and pollution. Okay, and it does a very good job. This is incredible programming. You think what Fenix have done, they've actually brought in an Airbus, dissected it, looked at all the things it can do, all the things it can't do, all the fly-by-wire preventions and laws and failure modes, ECAS, you know, all that. They've converted the real thing into computer programming. It's absolutely unbelievable, and it is incredibly accurate. So let's have a look. Is that the 9,000 foot peak there? Probably it is. Let's have a quick look outside.
French B995. Contact Marseille Control
be.
119.825.
So that is Calvi down there. You guys see that?
Contact Marseille Control
Calvi,
119.825.
St. Catherine.
French B995.
That's a fantastic
Bye-bye.
approach. The ILS into the runway is easy, but then there is this is very tight valley. It doesn't look like it here, but it's actually very tight valley, and you can fly along literally with your right wingtip along this valley, and then do a blind left descending turn to come into land on runway 36. Oops. Yeah, my button's not very well on my yoke, so I need to somehow fix it. So the airplane is saying here more drag, okay, and I should help it because we're above the glide. So let me just add a bit of drag. Okay, now just apply my spoiler. Okay, so I'll just show you the spoiler lever. There it is. Okay, and it's saying more drag on the FMC as well as up here. And you can see now that's helped it catch up with the dot. You know, it does its best to maintain the descent profile, but it does need a helping hand with a bit of drag just to increase your descent rate whilst maintaining a sensible speed. You don't want to overspeed. Right, I usually switch the passenger signs back on around flight level 250. We're at 260. Seems a good time as any, so we'll just switch that on, and you should hear our cabin crew. I'll just turn the volume up before I do that. Say something about taking their seats. Seatbelt signs are on.
Descend to flight level 220, French B995.
And now I'm going to 220. Press the button. There we go. Spoilers are still out, and it will continue the descent. 220 is not very much of a difference there. So, to be honest with you, I don't want to get too high on this approach. So I'm going to dial in 5,000, irrespective of what ATC are doing, because I don't want to come down too many steps. I'm trying to describe to you stuff, and I might miss the key. Oh gosh, I'm in trouble pressing the button. There we go, pressing the button, set and checked. So seatbelts are on, speed brake is still extended. I'm going to close that down now because, you know, we're on the profile.
Descend to flight level 150, French B995.
Yeah, so they're giving us a stepped descent, and I've just shortcut that. So I'll just let the airplane manage everything, and that way I won't miss any cues because I'm trying to describe things at the same time. Right, so seatbelts are on. We need to set the auto brakes, and we can have a quick look at the landing. So takeoff page is there, that's the landing page. What we can do is we can just check the details. It's dry, we'll apply the current weather, and we'll do low water brake, and we need landing weight, so we just click on landing weight there. Oops, hang on, no, there we go. Let's go to gross weight, there we go, 58,600. So we'll just dial in, no, manual landing weight, 58, we'll do 400. No, hang on, it's 58.4 at once. .4. Got there in the end. Okay, so it's now telling us that with low auto brake, full flaps, manual landing, what our landing margins are. Okay, now we should also brief very quickly on the airport. So we're coming in on runway 23. There's a single turn off midway down to the left, and that's halfway down. So will we stop in time for that? Maybe, but I'm not in a hurry, so I will just go auto brake low. We've got a turning point here. Okay, if we make that turning, great. If we don't, I'm not worried. So low auto brake. Okay, so we're still on profile, and remember we told the airplane that we need to be at Marseille, we'd like to be at Marseille at 5,000 feet. So here you can see the margins that you've got. So the landing distance required, the chart will tell you it's a nearly 2,500 meters in length, and we need 1,900 with that configuration. Okay, so we probably won't make that turn off, but I don't see really that we need to use excessive braking forces and scare the passengers or wear out the brakes unnecessarily. So low brake is fine. So we're now coming in over Ajaccio, which is another wonderful one. There we go. Ajaccio's there, and there is an airport just there. You can see it. This is another very classic approach in simulation. Beautiful. The approach into the runway is fine, but it's quite difficult to do. There is a visual approach to take into the reciprocal, and there's also one behind the hills, which is very exciting. Right, so we've got further descent clearance 090. As I said, I'm letting it come down to 5,000 feet without worrying too much about what ATC would like me to do. Right then, so I'm going to leave the zoom like that, but when we get a bit closer I will zoom in a little bit more. It's good for situational awareness. So the runway, that's the airport there, it's about 15 miles ahead of us on 1 o'clock. So can we see it? Possibly somewhere in there. As you can see, it's got very high mountains just to the north of the airfield and a few hills to the south of it. And those there are the straits of, is it Bonaparte? I don't know, to be honest. Corsica, and that's Sardinia, that's Italy. Bonifacio, I think. There's a city called Bonifacio. French Foreign Legion is based there. Anyway, so we're at 10,000 feet now. The aircraft is slowing down to 250. And at 10,000 feet, we go with the landing lights on. So we extend the landing lights, and now we switch them on. So passengers are seated, belted in. I didn't hear the call, but anyway, it doesn't matter. And our landing lights are on. Let's look and remind ourselves of the approach speeds. Go back to the performance page. Currently in the descent phase of the flight. Go to the next phase, and you'll see that our approach speed is 128 and our landing speed 123. So that's what we're aiming to touch down at. So we'll be approaching at 128, and as we get over the numbers we'll be slowing to 123. 1016. I'm going to zoom in now.
QNH1016, expect the ILS runway 23 with the Maisel transition.
No, you see, we're not going to do the ILS. This is where the Beyond ATC is not very good. It's not flexible. It's told us to do the ILS. Happily, it's in much the same format, much the same route. But no, we're not doing the ILS because, as I said, it's offset. So that's our approach speed. That's our landing speed. And you'll see that more drag, it wants more drag, it wants more drag. Okay, just give it a little bit of drag. So spoilers are out again. There you go, the more drag message has disappeared.
Descend to 5,000 feet, QNH.
Right, so we're now descending to 5,000 feet. That's an altitude. Because we're descending to an altitude, we can switch now from standard pressure, flight level, to the QNH, which is 1016. And that's set. Okay, we're just a bit above the profile. Come on, matey, you can do it. Let's give it a bit more drag. I'm going to zoom in even more now. This one, we need the detail. and this is just utterly scenic approach. We'll be flying right over this shortly. We descend over the high mountains. It's quite a steep descent. Okay, so we're back on profile. I can just release the speed brake. That's come back in. Okay, so look at the MACD. Okay, there is a button here on the set page called Activate Approach Phase. Now, because there are lots of fly-by-wire type laws in effect with the Airbus, lots of protection, so you don't make silly mistakes. The Airbus is very capable. It needs to differentiate between the various phases of flight that you're at. Oops, it's just gone a bit awry there. That's the sim doing a redraw of the scenery, I think. Okay, so we just come up to Mazal. So anyway, it needs to differentiate the various phases of flight. Now, in particular, the landing phase. Right, it's telling us that the fuel is not quite right. Now, the reason the fuel isn't quite right is because I don't have a sim brief profile for the IAE with sharklets. Okay, I'm sure we will get one, but I haven't got that yet. So probably the fuel loading was a bit low. Fuel on board is 3.5, but that I think that's enough. But the alternate is Rome. I'm not sure if I was flying to France I would want to see Rome as the alternate. Anyway, Mazal at 5,000, we're nearly there. What I'm going to do now is dial in 3,500. Just click this part of the knob here to change from 1,000 to 100 increments. Dial in 3,500, and the airplane is still in manage mode, so that's set and it's checked. The aircraft will continue to descend. It should maintain 5,000, so it's not done that properly until this waypoint here. So because it needs to differentiate the landing phase, okay, we can tell the airplane that we are doing a landing, so it knows that all the particular protections for normal flight or takeoff or climb or descent then change to the approach phase. So we can click that and tell it we're doing an approach. But the aircraft will know that because at this point, when it passes this button here, this point here, it will change automatically from the descent profile to the landing profile. Okay, so it's now descending to 3,500. I'm going to help it because I don't know if we're going to manage that. I would expect it to come down a bit quicker than that. So I'm going to pull this knob. I'm going to dial in a vertical speed. Let's go to 1,000 feet per minute. Okay, well, to get to 3,500. And if you look now, we're just coming over that point, and there you go, it's switched to the approach phase. So it knows that we'll be doing a landing, and now the next managed speed is 129. Okay, and once the aircraft levels out at 3,500, which would be where this blue line is, the aircraft will start to really slow down, and I will help it with flaps. And we need to be fully configured for landing at this point here. Okay, so let's let the airplane slow down. Okay. And you'll see the speed just bleed off, and as we put the flaps out it will really slow down. Okay, so I can put the flaps out as soon as we get to this line. Now, okay, now there we go.
Flaps
down.
1.
Flaps 1. I was a bit early, but I'm now also going to press the approach button to tell the airplane that we're in, we want to go to an RNAV approach. So we should see its final is armed, it's in blue. I need to let the aeroplane slow down to 200 knots before I can put the next stage out. Hopefully it will do that. Come on. Don't make me wait. So 200 knots, we're just about there now. There we go, 200 knots. So
Flaps 2.
flap 2, and I can put my gear down very, very soon. I'll do that when we've straightened up. These are the lateral deviation, the left and right, that's the vertical deviation. So it'll be coming down on the glide slope at this point. In fact, it says there's an aeroplane ahead of us. Can you see one? Can't see one. We can see the runway. In fact, what we're going to do, we're going to put the lights on, nose lights. Right, so, and turn off lights. Gear can come down. I'm going to go flaps 3.
Flaps 3.
Flap 3. One more stage to go. I'm going to, because the gear is down, I can arm my speed brake. And you can see that the lateral deviation that's coming in, that should be in the middle, but it will be. It will be. The aircraft will get there. And as soon as this vertical deviation line comes in, we'll start our descent.
Figari Tower, French
Any second now. There we go.
ILS runway 23.
See the nose pitching down. Okay.
French B995, Figari
And I should now put the missed approach altitude in,
in.
which is 4,000 feet.
Runway
I'm going to dial in
clear to
4,000
land,
feet.
French B995.
4,000 dialed in. Okay. And we're just above the profile, but it will manage that. We're on flaps 3, so let's go flaps full.
Full flaps.
Full flap. We got auto brake set. And the aircraft is slowing now to that 128 approach speed, and then as we get over the numbers it'll be 121. So we're on the glide. See the little green rectangle is just in the middle there, and we're on nearly, we're just a bit right of centre of the lateral. So yeah, there's no plane ahead of us. I hope we don't get a go around, because that's not quite what I'd expected. Okay, so I think we are all good. Does it say cabin ready? No, it doesn't. Lots of turbulence because these are big mountains and hills there. The Mediterranean has fierce winds. You can just imagine the winds being channeled down this valley, and there's a couple of hills just to the east of the airport, and you can see the airplane's just, you know, it is being buffeted around. You can see that, the way the nose is moving up and down. So we're exactly on speed, we're exactly on the vertical profile, and we're near as damn it on the lateral profile. And now we've got the cabin is ready and everything else checks out. The landing gear's down, signs are on, cabin's ready, spoilers are armed, flaps are full, so we're good. So we are good. I can see the aircraft, I can't see the aircraft, but I can see it on TCAS here. So
FGEC Echo Charlie, exit next available taxiway.
yeah, so it's telling the aircraft to vacate.
Echo Charlie.
It's telling the minimums. Okay, so I'm now going to take over. So autopilot is off. Let me just cancel the warning, and I'm just going to fly it, maintaining like an ILS the vertical and lateral. Got my hand on the throttle, and just going to keep that those green boxes where they are. And I'm still looking at the instruments. I'm not looking outside.
Approaching 23.
Not looking outside, because I'm flying the aircraft on the instruments. So just trying to keep those boxes in the middle. We had a bit of sync then. coming out over the numbers now. 100. Should be about 50 feet over the numbers.
50, 40. Retard.
Retard, bring the throttles back and hold the airplane off just very slightly. There we go.
Spoilers up.
Spoilers are up, reversers are out.
Reverse screen.
And I'm not going to
Decel.
try and make that. I'm just going to let the airplane decelerate. And it is decelerating here.
1200 remaining.
70 knots.
70 knots, right, so
Auto brake off.
brakes off, manual braking,
French
and
B995,
reverses
exit
stowed.
next available taxiway.
So we're going to just
Exit
turn
next
around
available
using this
taxiway, French
turning
B995.
area. Okay. So around we go. Let's give it a bit of... Now this scenery is payware scenery, not the best.
On
It's by a
runway
very dodgy
05.
company called Beautiful Model World, and yeah, they've got some history. But anyway, the scenery's okay. Right then, so let's give it a bit of welly. Now we shouldn't clean the aircraft up. At least that's what I was taught in the G aircraft, because it's very easy to inadvertently put your gear up instead of your flaps, or retract something that you shouldn't. Okay, but the first officer would be doing that, and the pilot and the captain would be doing the taxiing. So in this instance it's okay. So I'm going to put the flaps up, retract my
Flaps
spoilers,
up.
and I'm going to put the APU to on. I'm going to switch off the window heat because we don't need that
Ladies
anymore.
and gentlemen, the cabin crew will
And
shortly be
we're just
leaving
going to
their
vacate
seats
here
for
to the right.
safety-related duties.
Okay.
However,
I can
we
switch
ask
the
that
APU
you
on now
remain
because the
seated
door is
until
open.
The fasten seatbelt sign has been switched off. Portable electronic devices for messaging, calls, or internet
Okay,
access
so there is...
may now be used.
I can't see the aircraft that was ahead of us.
French B995,
So we're now at the hold,
contact ground
with the
one
other side of the
219
hold, so now we can just come to a stop and make sure that everything that we don't need, the non-essentials, as they call them, are off. So spoilers and flaps are up.
Smoking is not permitted.
We
until
can
you
do
reach a
landing lights.
designated smoking area. On behalf of the captain and
Switch off the
crew,
takeoff
it has
on the
been our
nose wheel,
pleasure
just
looking
put the
after
taxi
you
light
today.
on,
Our ground
Okay.
crew will help you complete your
and the
journey.
APU is firing up. You just put the bleed on in readiness. Okay, so we're going to take the parking stand to ahead of us, because for some reason Beautiful Model World have put these silly ramps in place, a bit like jetways. Passengers walk down, and it means that GSX doesn't interact with those very well. We're going to take this stand here. Oh, this is not a park straight on stand. Oh well. Oh well, we'll see what happens. Let me see what the parking is here. To be honest, I don't really know, but maybe it's along here. I don't know. Is the answer. Maybe you're supposed to, I don't know. Maybe you're supposed to taxi stop here. No, let's just stop here. I think that's probably as safe bet as any. So apologies for the really poor parking, but I'm going to be told now that there is no parking stand. So the APU is on. I'm going to switch off 2, then 1, and then we're going to switch off the taxi light. We're going to switch off the turn off light, the beacon light, let them out of their seats,
Cabin crew disarm doors.
and now I'm just going to not use GSX. Not sure what's happened here. The tablet seems to have hung. Yeah. Ah, hang on. Continue deboarding. I'll just dismiss that. So let's go to Fenix menu. We'll go to ground services. put chocks and cones are on, forward cargo, then we'll do doors, and we'll use the air stairs that come with the Fenix. So let's have a look outside. Got our own stairs, never mind GSX, and there we go. So that's a really beautiful approach into an unusual airport, Figari in Sud Corse, in Kilo Foxtrot in the Fenix A319 with an unusual IAE and chartlet combination. There you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you all on the next one. Take care. Bye now.